My guest in the studio, Dr. Aliyu Ilias, an economist and development expert, is joining us to discuss that issue. And maybe we'll just take a look at our first story there, the ban, Doctor.
Right. I think it's quite expected, and Nigeria focuses on monetary policy, fiscal policy, and doesn't get concerned about trade policy, and everything lies on trade policy because it will give you balance of payment and balance of trade. Now, what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did yesterday is quite instructive and expected. It's a very good one because you cannot continue to supply the whole world 40% of your raw material she-nuts and they are not seeing the money. So you must find a way to add value to it, which is value chain. So by so doing now, there will be value addition, and that value addition would have bring more money, more employment, increase our GDP, and we'll be competitive in the market. So it's quite a good one. However, when you just come up and say you ban for next 6 months, it doesn't all go well sometime with the pickers, because as a picker, you must have calculate where your money is coming from, and you say, okay, next 6 months I'm going to do A, B, and C, and this actually affects women more. About 90% of pickers are female. So now they're not saying that they should hold on for the next 6 months before things go. So I expect government to say, okay, in the next 1 year we are going to ban it. So they will gradually, be transforming, because 3 things must come in place there: infrastructure, fund, and technology. Okay, so
it's basically back to the conversation of the full subsidy 2023, whereby it was implemented, but the things to help cushion the effect were not put in ground, and we're still reeling from that whole conversation.
Sometimes we say President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his team act on impulse, but it's as if we are overflogging the issue because they are much more reactive than being proactive. So I think by the time he got to TICAD and Brazil, he got to see that so Nigeria is just bringing its raw material for the whole world. Now he now said there and then he decided to, which is quite impromptu. Which is a good policy direction. Okay, it's a good policy direction, but the timing was quite not a good one. But like I said, they also have to come back home, put 3 things in place. Number 1 is infrastructure. Those people must have a place where they actually take this into, and when they take it to, they must have infrastructure that will refine, that will add value to it, and there must also be fund. That simply means that those that are pickers and those that actually will add value, you need to come and give them fund. They may need little equipment, they may need to take it from one place to the other. You need to fund them. Then lastly, there is need for technology. Though you don't need to reinvent the wheel already, the wheel is already there. So all you need to do is that go abroad, get the technology, and bring it down for them. I think 6 months is enough, because you are not doing something new. It's what is operational in the world. I think they are following Sierra Leone and other countries that have actually decided to ban. So by and large, it's a good idea, but the timing is quite challenging.
Okay, hopefully, as you've said, they will have things in place to say that this ban is not just some word of mouth thing. The enforcement is being done, and that we actually are able to generate.
And it will also be sad, after 6 months, we don't see the result.
Yes.
So people will now go back to the same
However,
level.
I think the picker should still be able to pick and store.
Well, it depends. You won't compare pick and store and pick and sell. You will
still be sold to the government, but the government...
That's an alternative we are professing for government now, if they think in that area, so that the picker will not suffer. They should create maybe a kind of warehouse where you do the normal picking, then you do your normal. But if the picking is affected, it's going to affect their economic life. Me, I'm talking about economic, like someone who want to pay school fees.
Yes.
I don't know if you have been to those kind of farm, whereby people will go and pick cherry, go and pick it with the aim that if I pick this thing, I'll gather it and pay school fee. If you now say no, please don't sell this period, don't bring this period, you have jeopardized. You have cut short the economic plan, which is a factor. So with what you just said, which is quite timely, there should be continuous picking, and there should be continuous buying from the government.
Okay, all right. We've taken enough time on that story, and our time is quite limited today. And we're supposed to be talking about the Naira under pressure. The Naira is our beautiful currency. And a few years back, when the current governor of Anambra State was the governor of the CBN, he stipulated about knocking off some denominations, and I think he said making 20 Naira the highest at that time. I'm not so certain if I have the figures correct, but He wanted to do that, and there was a lot of backlash. But we see that Syria on Friday is towing towards that part, and they're going to knock off 2 zeros out of their money. So their 5,000 Syrian pounds will now become 50 Syrian pounds. And Ghana did its way back in 2007, and we're saying that their money now has value. Even IMF said earlier, I don't know why your face is like that, but earlier in the year, IMF came and said that Ghana's currency is one of the doing well currencies in the world, actually. So, but I don't know why you have that face and all that. The question now is, let's bring it back to Nigeria.
Right.
Is redenomination, because that's actually what we're talking about. You know, trying to maybe take away the higher denominations, bring it down, you know. Like over in America, you have the $100 bill. That's the highest denomination you'll ever see in circulation. There might be a $1,000 bill. Nobody's really saying it, but that's the highest you see. Will that actually help us as a country if we were to knock off the 1,000s, 500s, 200s?
I think the first question is that, are we at the level of redenominating Nigerian currency? Are we at the level that Syria is? The answer is obviously no. Now, another thing
do we have to get that bad first before we decide?
Yes, you cannot redenominate unless you get to a particular level. So we are not in that level. Now, another thing is that you made mention of Ghana. I think the current one was Sierra Leone. As of 2022, they redenominate. You know, they knock, 3 out. Ghana knock 4. Then in 2007. But 2007, when you were talking about, I think that's the period of Soludo or so, Nigeria want to go to that route. I can tell you, to redenominate, it's a good one for bad economy. When I say bad economy, they have the highest level of inflation. But as at Nigeria now, as at today, where we have 21.88 inflation rates, that also, and we have GDP that is going doing better. We have our forex at 1,500 to 1,600. I don't think we should denominate. But let's go back to Ghana. Ghana did it. I don't think they benefit that thing. If you look at it very, even as at then, if you look at them when they redenominate, we're thinking they were better than us. Up to now, I'm not sure. Yes. Please, you have to double check that if it actually favors them. There are other things you could do in the economy that could favor. You may now attribute it to redenomination. Because if you redenominate, it does not really mean that your economy is better. It does not really mean your purchasing power is better. In fact, it does not even affect outside. It's only psychological, you know, to your citizen that, okay, now we are not using what's the highest currency we have now? Is it not 1,000 naira? We're not using 1,000 naira. 1,000 naira is now
will now be 10 naira.
Will now be 10 naira. It's just psychological, and it will just work on the sector. But in terms of economy, true economy, you know, I don't think it helps. I don't think it will help compared to devaluation, even revaluation, all those other semantics. But for me, I don't. In as much as Nigeria is under pressure financially, there are other things that we could embark upon that will be better compared to redenominating our currency. Those that have done it, I've not seen the positive impact that it brings, you know. But for Syria, we don't know. But for me, Syria is at that level. Syria was in war. Serious war, you know, internal crisis, and even global communities have to look into it. So I don't think we have got to that level.
Maybe you don't think, but you know, there was a time people were buying a bag of a sachet of pure water for 5 naira, and currently you're buying that for maybe 15 naira. And there was a time when the sweets, all those little sweets, you could buy them 3 10 naira, and now one is 15 naira.
I agree with you.
And so maybe for some people, in as much as we don't have to buy loaf of bread for 10,000 naira, but then some might say that maybe if we don't have to get to Syria, if we start curbing it now, then maybe we don't have to, you know, we might make things better.
I agree with totally that our money has been devalued so well that it's affecting our purchasing power. But like I said, you know, you have to look at beyond that to look at other things that could affect. Now, I don't know. Those countries that have actually done that, like, okay, let's look at bad economy in Africa. Burundi, Uganda. If you look at their
Zimbabwe,
you know, Zimbabwe. If you look at them, they are still not actually embarking on that. I'm not saying it's not good for them, but if you look at that Nigeria, as it were, our challenges, it has to do with the supply side of foreign currency, like dollar, pounds, and which Nigeria is, according to them now, the foreign reserve is getting much more bigger. They are looking
yes,
at other
44
things.
point something
Yes,
at the
they're
last
looking at
time.
other things to actually bring about. So for me, I will not be in support of going to that level to redevalue, because you know, when you redevalue, it has all its own negative implication too. It does not really anything that you do that will not bring down your inflation, that will not bring down your purchasing, you increase your purchasing power, you know, that will not increase your GDP. You don't need to embark on them, and that's why I always talked about trade policy. So we have to look at it very well. Now, the advantage that we are benefiting now from devaluation, no, it has to devalue, because we have seen economy like China, Korea, they intentionally devalue their money. Even if America was saying that China, they are questioning China for that, but China is intentional, because when you devalue your currency, you know, it gives you export orientation. It makes your people to export more. That's why you see China now. China exports. People prefer to go to China, you know, to China
produce.
exports to other, right? So now what's happening in Nigeria is that I wish our country Nigeria can do some magic in terms of increasing our productivity. You know, when you increase product, that's part of what shea butter is looking at now. So when you increase your productivity, add value, you will export more. And when you export more, that means you are taking advantage of what? Devaluation. Remember, it is an unintended advantage, but it has come to advantage now, and the economy is getting it better. So I'm not saying that we should, because sometimes you could have a good value of money, but your economy may be bad. You know, so some.
But it isn't. If you say that you have a good, isn't one of the tenements or one of the indices of a bad economy the fact that the currency doesn't have so much value?
Well, that's why I said it's a two-way thing. You know, it's an economist. So when you're interpreting economies, you are going to look at positive externalities and what it will attract to you. So some people might decide that, like America, London, Euro, they believe in their currency is very highly valued in Nigeria. But China is telling you that no, my intention is that I want my people to be able to export. And you can see China is exporting every now and then. So their currency is very, very low. So it depends on Nigeria now. We have to now sit down and look at, do we want currency that have a very, very high value? Do you have it? Or you want a currency that have low value and productive? So what we actually need as a country is that you need to do productivity. So when you have things that you are exporting and the GDP, the export is getting better, it will reflect in the economy. And that's why I have little issue with the CBN, where you have tarry for the 4 consecutive months with our MPR.
Yes.
You know, you are not bringing it down. It also has its negative implications on Nigerians. Now, as a manufacturer, I cannot manufacture more if I don't have access to fund. You know, because as a businessman, you don't say you use your money. That means you don't want to operate big. So borrowing is part of a business person. You know, so you go borrow big, then you produce, right? Then by the time you produce, it will help the economy. It will also help Nigerians. So I think they should find a way to reduce that MPR. Maybe when next they meet in their MPC meeting, maybe they should knock maybe 2. Maybe we have 25.5 or 25%, so that people can actually go there to borrow money. Remember, the more manufacturer produces, the more there is employment. You understand? And the more our GDP also. So it has it. So you don't sacrifice growth because you want your inflation to actually reduce. Because the reason why they're actually sacrificing growth is that they said there is too much money in circulation. But if I ask yourself and myself, how much money is in our pocket? So they are looking at it that federal government is pushing more money to states, and state governors are now having more money. But the question is, are they actually using this money for capital expenditure that would translate to people's pockets? These are the things they have to look at. So CBN have to look at it critically.
Hopefully the people from the CBN were watching, and in their next PR meeting, MPC meeting, they will look into these things and come up with strategies that best favor the people of Nigeria. That's the much we can take. Thank you so much, Dr. Aliyu Ilias, for joining us on the program this morning, sharing your insights as always.
Thank you for having me.
That's the much we have for you this morning on Business Daily. We'll be discussing redenomination of the Naira. Would it work for us? And the doctor has shared his insight. He says he doesn't believe it's something that Nigeria needs at this time. That's it for Business Daily this morning. I've been your host, Chama Kama. For more of our programs, news, and documentaries, follow us on our social media platforms and on our YouTube live stream. Same place, same time tomorrow. Bye for now.